Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Toshi's Tulpa Guide. Today we're going to be talking about Tulpa uh, vocality, I think is how you want to say the word. Anyway, vocalization. All right. So being vocal, referring to the mind voice. Um, I'm a little different in this, so I'm kind of having to go off what I've studied in this because, as some of you may know, before Tulpamancy, I actually had auditory hallucinations, which my Tulpa hijacked for her voice. So, I literally hear my Tulpa, but most people won't do that, okay? Um, I mean, someone told me that it was a mental illness buff once, but I don't agree with that. Mental illness is never a buff, it's always a debuff. Just saying, all right? But Tulpamancy definitely helped with that. But so vocality, people like to say their tulpas try to talk to them through tulpish, which is like feelings and head pressures and all this stuff. I kind of want to clear the air. In my research and of the hundreds of tulpamancers I've talked to, I do not think that head pressures have anything to do with communication. I think the head pressures are simply the pressure of the brain itself creating those new neural networks. So I would say head pressures in general um, are completely irrelevant to communication. This may not always be the case now, and it's going to be different for everyone. But in my opinion, and from what my data suggests, that head pressures are just, you know, the brain working hard to make new networks, new connections, neuroplasticity, what it is. However, the tulpish, the feelings, that's where a tulpa will start to, in my experience, this is how mine started. And how a lot of others I've talked to started. You'll get feelings more than you'll get um, voices in the beginning before you establish a real good communication there. Um, and it turned out that by the time I actually figured out how to hear Sierra, she'd been screaming at me for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks or something. So basically, when it comes to vocalization, tulpas actually mature a lot faster than you might think, but it's not going to happen overnight. Um, there are some accounts of people saying, "Oh, I started forcing, and an hour later, my tulpa started talking to me." I find this extremely hard to believe, and all my data suggests that this does not happen, and that they're probably parroting uh, mistaken random intrusive thoughts or just random thoughts for their tulpa, which I don't believe is the case. Okay? Doesn't mean these people are lying. It just means that all the data I've got suggests that it's going to take weeks to months to actually be able to communicate effectively with your tulpa. I spent 6 months working nonstop to try to communicate with my tulpa before we got a really good communication going. Okay? So it can and will take a good long time to establish good, constant, unbroken communication between you and a tulpa. But as I was saying earlier, the first thing you will probably feel is feelings. They will feel at you instead of talk at you, they will feel at you. I know that sounds weird, but it is a perfect way to describe it. You will feel a feeling that is not yours. And I mean a strong feeling. That's how you know they're trying to talk to you. You know, excitement, joy, sadness, um, stuff like that. Those really powerful emotions. That's what's going to come first. Um, and even before, I heard Sierra, um, I woke up in the middle of the night to my hand tickling my nose and waving at me. So, you know, this just goes to show you how difficult communication is over, something like possession or stuff like that. Um, so like, yeah, I'd been forcing for goodness 3 months at this point, and yeah, just one night I woke up and you know my finger was tickling my nose and waving at me, and that was freaking weird. And I'm like, oh, well, hi. And several days later, um, I heard her finally. Uh, basically, um, for any would-be tulpas come starting to come into existence, uh, vocality is difficult. I understand, but don't speak louder. Speak harder. I know that's a weird way to say it, and it's weird to think about, but don't speak louder because that won't do anything. Your mind voice only has one volume, or at least in our experience, it only has one volume. So speak harder with more intention, if that makes any sense. So when you're trying to talk to your host, um, focus and speak with extreme intention of being heard. Uh, Send frustrated feelings if you have to, so they know to listen. And for hosts, you got to learn to listen. It's very difficult. You don't know what you're listening for. You don't know any of it, but you got to recognize those thoughts that aren't yours. Those thoughts that aren't yours are your tulpas. And at first, they can seem like the same thing. They can seem like random thoughts, but Tulpa's mind voice will become more clear the first time you hear it. And then it just gets easier and easier. And again, it's just diligent practice. Practice, practice, practice. And Tulpas be kind of patient. It's not easy for hosts, and it's not easy, and hosts, it's not easy for Tulpa. This is something you both got to work on together. So during your forcing sessions, like when you're talking to your Tulpa, stop after you say something, ask a question, and then just stop and listen. Search. Search for a thought that isn't yours, and then trace that thought back. See if it's the tulpa or just a random thought. It's very difficult at first. Yes, it is. I won't lie to you and say it's easy. Nothing about Tulpamancy is easy. So keep focusing, keep trying, and it will always eventually happen. Okay? Remember the talk to it until it starts talking back? This is it. You keep talking and then you keep listening and you keep trying, and it doesn't matter if it takes 1 week, if it takes 1 month, if it takes 1 year, it will eventually happen as long as you stick with it and keep practicing. Most people, it doesn't take that long, and I was on the longer end. I was on the longer end of 6 months. Uh, like I said, some people have said overnight, some people have said a week. I would say a good measure would be 1 to 2 months before you can really get good communication going. According to everything I've read, and I spend almost all day, every day, reading about Tulpamancy, reading experiences, talking to other Tulpamancers. I spend a lot of our life doing this. In between video games and YouTube. So just don't give up. I mean, that's the real main thing here. Don't give up. Keep trying. Don't get discouraged. It's not a race. Slow and steady. That's how you do it. Anyway, guys, thank you for listening to this edition of Toshi's Tulpa Guide. If you're still lurking in the shadows, please don't. That's weird. Go ahead and subscribe. Join all the cool kids, you know. So anyway, we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.